all our energy systems are based on mass and energy, on explosive technology. And Dan Winter's been talking about it's all the implosive, it's all about implosive technology. Well, it's really about the explosive and the implosive. Because the big thing that physics went in the wrong direction is just focusing on one idea of the system. We came up with the Big Bang, and that's just a big explosion. Well, what about the big implosion? And so really, it's not a big bang, it's a big breath. It's always been a big breath. And so it's understanding how to take those concepts and put them into the technology. And so what this guy does is this is an inductor and a capacitor. It's unifying those two technologies into one technology, and it's doing it with geometry. And so when I was showing you, turn this guy upside down, I'm going to show you a really cool piece of geometry. That's the octagram. So the octagram is a triple helix. And the octagram has compression and expansion of the electric charges. And so because there's compression and expansion, you're creating a polarization in the conductor. The conductor itself is becoming capacitor plates. But instead of the energy just sitting in those capacitors, you're moving them at the same time. And that's what inductors do, you're moving energy through them. Well, you want to move them, and you want to polarize them at the same time. And so, in this geometry, use a different color, you could say you have the negative charges being compressed on the outside, right? And then you have your opposing charge right here. So we could say negative, 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 positive, 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 negative, negative, negative. So to understand why I'm putting these here, it has to relate to the midpoints and the distribution of the energy. And so the relationship from this charge to this charge is a 30-degree angle. The relationship from this charge to these two charges is also a 30-degree angle. And so there's this little core right here. Now what happens if you put something in that core that's not conductive, but it responds to electromagnetic fields? That's what we call a dielectric, such as quartz. Quartz, oh, guy's gone. Quartz is a dielectric. It responds very strongly to electric fields. And a dielectric is an insulator. So when I hold my hands up in the air, if my hand is negative charged here and this one's positive charged, the air in between it becomes electrically aligned in the opposing direction. If this is negative, the oxygen in the air will become positive right here. And so you create a polarization. That insulator helps support the polarization, but it doesn't allow energy to flow in between. And so if you put that substance in the core of this, guy, which just has normal air in it, the air in the center reflects this geometry on the outside. And it keeps fractalizing at a rate of 30 degrees toward a singularity in the center. And so I'm taking first dimensional topology with this simple geometry of 3 circles and connecting to a single point in space, a singularity. And that's what this guy allows you to do. It allows you to take the second dimensional energy, which contains first dimensional geometry, to then connect to the infinite. And so you're working through steps of geometry to make the connections. And so what we're going to be trying to do with these coils is making them in it's a real technological challenge. But the process of where we actually connect the coils, there's this space in between. Well, we want to fill up this space with a bunch of inert gases. And the Sim is doing with a device he's working on, he's filling with all the inert gases and a little bit of hydrogen. So when you ionize these gases, you create plasma, they emit light. And when you use a specific, as he calls soup, the soup of light, it creates the full spectrum of light. And we're trying to ionize the gas in the center of these coils. And so these coils are containment units for the plasma, but at the same time they're made to accelerate the plasma, and they're made to not only put energy in, but allow you to pull energy out. And so we're accelerating the plasma to near the speed of light, circling it around again and again and again. And so it's sort of like the idea of a particle accelerator, but much smaller, much cheaper than what they're doing over in Europe. much safer. You can completely contain the energetic fields in a small space. With that process, I just lost my lab this week, actually, in Asheville. So, but no, it's good, it's good. Everything is just like, I'm probably going to be coming out to Ashland, working with the team in Ashland, and I'll probably be coming to Kauai to work with the sim. So it's all just sort of happening the way it's happened. I did what I need to do in Asheville, and I'm ready to move on. So there's a little hiatus. I have a feeling it's going to result in some more lectures and some more teaching. But I need to find a more appropriate facility. And they have that in Ashland. And the sim this week, as of this week, is leasing land on Kauai. He just got a grant. What's it called? He just got a grant. The grant's allowing him to lease property on Kauai and start setting up a lab. He has everything needed to go. He just needs a space. So really cool things are happening. The sim also just got his space drive patented about 3 weeks ago. It was probably the best moment of hanging out with him. It was him just being a little boy, like, they let me patent the space drive! He was extremely happy. He's been trying to get that patent for about 4 years. And there's been some interesting things happening with the free energy movement, such as how did this thing get this patent? And a lot of us feel like we have the green light to go with these technologies, and none of us have really been harassed in a while. Where even 2 years ago it was relatively dangerous. But something's changed. Don't really know, but something's changed, and we're moving forward in a really progressive way.
What's the space drive?
His space drive is a double toroidal model, and so it consists of spinning gases near the speed of light in two opposing directions. What will it do? It can exhibit gravitic effects, and at the same time he uses it to charge crystals. And these crystals he has are extremely powerful. I've experienced them myself, as some people in here have too. And they're tetrahedral crystals that he charges with them. And he's not been able to pull energy out of the system though, which is what we're at. The next big step, how to do that. Yeah.
In using the crystals with the technology you're developing, does the manufactured crystal have the same effectiveness as natural ones?
That's an interesting question. The ones he's using are manufactured. And the thing about using a manufactured crystal is you can control the geometry of the crystal. And so he grew the crystal in a specific field to really help the energy collapse to a singularity.
I was just thinking, what did you call that design? The
Octagram.
Quartz octagram.
Well, the quartz, I like to put quartz at the center of the Star of David coin. And that's a whole other discussion. So I think we have about 20 minutes left. Yes, Hart? Yes, I'm going to some activities right now. So we're going to have Hart do an activation. We're going to build ourselves a vortex. I'm just going to share a really quick story, end this about the octagram, and it's a fun story of mine. I was at Tesla Tech a couple years ago. Tesla Tech is in Albuquerque every year. A bunch of free energy guys go. Marco invited me to the event. And it was the last day of the event, and I had this like fundamental realization that interrelated the number 8 with the number 144. 144 is a really important number if you ever get into coral castle stuff. And I have a program I use called GeoGebra. GeoGebra is a high school program for understanding geometry, and it's a beautiful program for working with 2D geometry, even though what I'm doing is first dimensional topology. And so I sat down on this program and started playing around with these different star coils, or these different patterns around the number 8. And my friend comes over and sits down next to me. He's like, hey, go back to that coil, and back to that star geometry. And I go back to him and he's like, man, check this out. And he pulls out his cell phone. And on his cell phone he pulls out a picture of that star geometry. He says they walked into LA's Union Station about a month ago, and he was wondering what was going to be the first thing he saw when he walked in that just like stood out in terms of symbology. And there was a Masonic statue when he first came in. At the base of the statue was this emblem of the octagram. And he took a picture, he sent it to Marco, and then went and sat down on a bench and looked up, and there was a magazine rack and of Church of Latter-day Saints. And he said, and there was a magazine cover that said, "This is all you need to know." And so he just like relays this to me right here, and I'm like, no way, interesting. And so I start playing with this geometry more. And I realized the patterns of how it relates to the golden ratio. And that's really significant, and that relates to the pyramid. It just starts blowing my mind seeing all these patterns within this geometry. I get really excited, and I go out to like the carport of the hotel, and Marco's out there packing up the van. I'm like, Marco, you got to take a look at this. This thing is just phenomenal. Whole new star coil, whole new system. It's great. And he just starts laughing at me. And I don't understand why he's laughing so hysterically. He grabs me so hard by the shoulder and brings me back into the hotel. The hotel is called the Marriott Pyramid, by the way. And pulls me back into the hotel, where I was sitting in the hotel on the lobby floor working on this geometry is the octagram tiled into the floor of the hotel. And so there's a picture of me online of me making this like little discovery of the octagram as I'm sitting on this tiled floor and had no clue. So, here's an interesting synchronicity to share with you. A funny one where I came out here for the Sims Delegate Program. A bunch of people flew me out here. I was able to raise $1,100 in the 5 days from 10 different people to get me out here to meet the Sim. And big one is Brandon. Is Brandon in here?
Yeah, right.
Brandon, thank you. Brandon was a major contributor to bring me out here. Thank you, Brandon. I talked to the Sim. I gifted him this coil. This is getting mailed to him after we worked with it in Ashland. And the Sim invited me to come out on Kauai and spend a couple days with him. And when I went to buy my plane ticket for Kauai, I had the money, but it was still like, once I bought the plane ticket, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna be a little short, but I think I'm gonna do it. And I sat down to go buy the plane ticket. The plane ticket was $213. And I'm about to hit the buy button, and all of a sudden I see on my cell phone, I see that PayPal had just deposited $213 into my account minutes before I need to spend that for the plane ticket. So I thought that was pretty synchronistic. It was a staff I had built, sold on Etsy, and after the shipping and the fees, it came out to exactly what I needed. And so yeah, I make staves and wands. This is one of the wands we've made in the shop.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
I just wanted to say that when it comes to doing things with the Resonance Project, I think it is part of, there are oftentimes really big scale and very high precision of how the collaboration comes through the manifestation. You know, oftentimes and consistently, it's really a big project. You can feel it in that, those frameworks going through us. So it's been an awesome community.
And so, thank you. So one thing to share with this, one thing we discovered at the festival playing with this, so this is a wand, it's copper with a little bit of brass and a quartz crystal. So we sort of discovered like a new art to play around with. I'm wearing a silver ring. And so right now I'm holding this copper in one hand and silver in this hand. The silver is taking on a negative charge. The copper is taking on a positive charge. As soon as I start to move my hand, which happens anyways, when I move my hand, I start to create a magnetic field. Because the metal is polarized, it creates even a greater magnetic field. So now what happens if I start to move these together? And so ideas of sort of Tai Chi and Qigong, you can have these two polarizations spinning around each other, feeding off each other. And so I'm going to leave this out here with the ring if anyone wants to try and play around with it. It gets pretty addicting, and the energy just keeps building up and to a point where you're just going to have to sit down. And so let's do an exercise. Let's make a vortex. Who wants to make a vortex? All right. And so we have this lovely geodesic dome, and the center is right here. Yeah, clear the space right here. Hold on for a sec. Take whatever. All right.